Okay, welcome to Close Call. Today we are talking with Senior Account Executive James Yuri, and we're talking all about early stage startups and the way you do outreach. We know founders have a lot of work to do right in the beginning of the sales process, a lot of outbound sales that maybe they weren't expecting. So we're relying on you, James, for tips and tricks for these startup founders that weren't expecting to be in sales when they started their business, but now they are.
Totally.
Maybe as a first question, I'd love to ask you, what are the best outreach channels for startup founders? And maybe where can they find some of those first leads as they're selling a new product?
Yeah, absolutely. And full disclosure, I'm not a founder, never been a founder, but I talk to a lot of founders and we brainstorm strategies around their specific platform, their specific product. And these are some of the ideas and tactics that I've tried with some of those founders that we've worked with that have been effective. And so I'll communicate some of those strategies that I think can really help you get a leg up in this initial outbound outreach, because outbound is hard. It is a beast. It is a different ball game, but it can be done. And so, thinking about like where you're going to get your first leads, sort of those initial outreach channels, I always encourage founders to start telling their story early about the problem that they're solving, right? Even if maybe they have a few customers, they have no customers, they're just ramping up to the point where they're going to be able to do sales. Everybody is curious about the life of being an entrepreneur and a founder. So tell your story about why you did that. Why did you give up X, Y, and Z? Or maybe you're still working a job and you're a founder as well, and you're just trying to make this happen. Everybody's curious about that, especially on LinkedIn. That's what folks are there for. And I don't think enough founders do this. And just candidly, recording things, you don't have to chop it together and add more work to your life and making these fancy videos. Just turn on record, tell your story about your success, your failures, the problem that you're trying to solve, just to raise awareness of yourself, your brand, and the problem that you're solving at hand. And this could be as simple as, hey, I quit my job a year ago. I set out to start this. This is where we're at. We're getting close to, releasing our product. We have 0 customers and I'm starting my outbound process. And post just that on LinkedIn and ask a question. Does anybody have any advice for getting started in outbound? What worked for you? Ask your network and just tell your story, and then continue to do that. Challenge yourself to post once a week about something you did really well that week, something you failed at that week, or something that you're a little stuck on. And this just, over the period of time, people start to get familiar with your face. They become aware of your brand and the problem that you're solving. And people hear it enough, even if they're not your ideal persona, they're curious about your story, and they might just have that friend that they say, hey, I've seen this on LinkedIn of this guy solving this exact problem that you're talking about. And they send you a lead that you are not expecting. So I very much encourage founders to tell their story, post it, be shameless about it. Who cares? You should be proud of what you're doing and just put it out there, because you don't know what's going to happen. And that's going to raise that initial awareness. I don't see enough founders do this. There's plenty of room on LinkedIn for this type of content that is actually really interesting and engaging.
I love that. And the idea of transparency too, because it's true that maybe there's a lot of posts on LinkedIn or a lot of places like this where you see, oh, we made it, we've had success. But
Yeah.
it's cool to see someone transparently talking about the journey there as well. And
Absolutely.
that's definitely something that interests people.
Yeah. Talk from your own personal perspective that you are telling your story, and get people engaged and invested in what you're doing as just a human being, not as a product and selling to them. Another thing is tapping into your own network. I think that's one of the first places you should go, is your network. And I think this could start with just asking for feedback on what you're building. And this is, founder at another company, your buddy who works in sales at another company, your buddy who's a product engineer or a software engineer or a product designer, whoever they are, or Joe Schmo off the street who doesn't care about tech at all, and trying to explain to them, right? Your buddy who he doesn't care about tech, or she doesn't care about tech. Get them engaged. Just get people to give you feedback about what you're solving, and it's just going to exercise those muscles of explaining the problem that you set out to solve, why it solves it, and get someone else's perspective on what you're doing. And those conversations could lead to, hey, actually, I have a buddy who might need this, and he or she might be willing to give you some feedback, or they might even be interested in buying. Just have conversations that don't necessarily have an expectation at the end of it that they're going to buy or not. It's, how can I improve? What's your perspective on this? Candidly, like I want to know so that I can make adjustments, make improvements, or maybe they see something about your product that can solve a problem that you weren't thinking about, because some products are really flexible, right? And they can solve a problem for something else that the founder didn't set out to solve initially.
Hmm.
So I would dig into your network, close friends, second degree, third degree, just ask for feedback, ask for a second look on it. And those types of conversations typically lead to a referral at some point where someone knows someone who you can help them.
That's so cool. And so this really would be starting very early stage, no? From what you're talking about, it sounds like this is even before maybe you have a product that
Either
you're
or,
selling ready.
either or. You could
Hmm.
be ready to go, have it ready to roll out, ready to sell, ready to, start making money. It's always good to hear from people. And hey, this is going live on the market today, and people can now go to our website and buy this, or however your sales process works. I would love to just chat about it and get your perspective. Just start having more conversations with people about the problem that you set out to solve, whether it's very early, you're releasing, you're struggling to get your first 5, 10 customers, wherever that is in the process. Dig into your network and ask people for help, ask people for feedback.
I love that. That's so cool.
Another solid outreach channel for startup founders is finding other companies that have a lot of synergy with what you offer. So this is just typical in business. There are other companies that typically sell to your same audience, and what you offer complements what they offer. And so, just like an ICP, you can find these companies that are like a ideal business profile, someone who complements what you do really well. Go out and find those companies and engage them. And you could do a couple of things. You could go to different people in the company and again ask for feedback on your product. Hey, we're trying to solve this problem. I know you sell to the same audience. I see that we could compliment you, you could compliment us. I just wanted to have a conversation about how we might do that. And typically, if they have someone in the partnerships role, go to that persona and ask them if this is a conversation that they'd be open to having, and find a few of these companies and try and establish these types of partnerships where your target audience is the same. You're solving for different problems, but the problems that you solve for are complementary to each of your business models. Even again, they say, hey, well, no, we're not open to a partnership right now. If you could just have a conversation with them, typically there's going to be some takeaway from that. And whether that's
Hmm.
how I can improve, or they might make a referral. I have a friend that needs help solving this. You just don't know. Something in the universe has to move for something else to happen in the universe, right? So go and start poking things, talking to people. Just be genuine, be candid, be honest. Don't be salesy, don't be fluffy. Just start going out and having conversations with people, and one thing will lead to another.
And so in this case, talking about like a complementary business, can you give me like an example of what would be a sort of complementary business that a startup founder would look for?
Yeah, so I'll speak to the perspective of like clothes. There are a lot of complementary tools that can be built around clothes. That could be calendar scheduling, like a SavvyCal or a Calendly or things like that. Nick and I and other folks will go out into the ecosystem and we'll start conversations with people based on tools that we think would complement clothes really well. Quota Path is another one. So we use Quota Path for commissions, and we can link them here. Graham, we started a conversation with Graham and partnerships over there, and the CEO as well. And we're working on an integration with them because it solves a problem for us internally on commissions, and it solves a problem for a lot of our customers. Yet we're solving different problems, right? We're the sales
Mm.
CRM and they're handling payouts. And so that would be a really nice, clean example of how businesses can complement one another. They can work together to lead share in a sense where you're running a webinar or you're
Mm.
doing some co-marketing and saying, hey, we now have this collaboration or this integration, whatever it might be. And it raises awareness of that tool that complements the tool that you're already using, which for the other company, all of a sudden you got this inflow of leads because there was awareness made, and now you can bolt on this tool to the other one. That would be one example in the tech space and the sales space, specifically speaking from us at Close.
And so, what the startup in this case would offer is maybe something like that, no, a co-marketing or a joint webinar or something like that that they do together to raise awareness in that case for both brands.
Exactly.
That makes
Exactly.
sense. Yeah, because then it's beneficial for both parties in the end. It's
Yeah,
always a good thing.
100%. And a lot of times there might be a factor of intimidation where you're this founder who has no customers, less than 10 customers, less than 100 customers, and you approach this company who is growing and scaling. I wouldn't be intimidated by that, because oftentimes what you are doing for them is you're giving them a solution for their customers so that their salespeople don't have to overcome that objection every time. No, we don't have that natively, or they don't have a good recommendation for it. Because as a salesperson, you want to speak as an expert. So, someone comes to us at close and they say, hey, can you calculate commissions in close? Like, no, we can't natively, but we have a partner, Quota Path, that can do that, and they can do that really well. And so you're small and you're approaching a company that's bigger, don't be intimidated. You might be able to solve a problem for their customers that's really, really valuable. And so don't be intimidated by that factor. Just find another company that has synergy with yours, where your product or service complements one another, and start a conversation.
I love it. So then what are some best practices for cold outreach that founders should know? Now they have some new customers, some leads, maybe some referrals. Now they have to do cold outreach to these people that maybe they haven't had a conversation yet with about their product. What are some best practices that startup founders can use?
So if you're speaking to, maybe you do have a couple leads and you have a couple referrals, well, that's easy. Follow up with them until they tell you yes or no, right? And do that in a graceful way. If someone already has some sort of interest, you have a referral, make sure that, one, hey, I heard about you from my friend. He sent you over, she sent you over. I wanted to talk with you a little bit more about the problem that we're solving. They said that you might need some assistance here. Is that true? Just be honest. Don't be too salesy. Don't be fluffy. Just speak what you're thinking to those folks that have been referred across the fence there. Or if you have some inbound leads, again, just never stop following up. Call, email, and these should be custom touches, not just in the initial stages and rolling them into a bulk email sequence. Don't do that. Every lead is hot and valuable at this point, right? Make sure you take really good care of them. And that could also be another channel of using video messaging of, hey, my friend referred you, and just record a quick Loom video of that's very personalized and let them know that you care, you want to talk to them. And that is effective. Now, when you're reaching out cold, outbound, no referral, they have no awareness of you. First couple things you need to do, and it's going to be in this order, in my opinion, is we talk about ideal customer profile all the time. You need to tune in to who that is. You need to understand that persona. You need to be able to live and breathe in their perspective of their day-to-day, what they do as their job, and the problem that you solve for them. You need to have an intimate understanding of that persona and that ideal customer profile. Once you've been able to gather that, and you have a really good understanding of that ICP, as I call them, I would start working in batches in cold outreach. I would start with 5 or 10. Go to LinkedIn, find these 5 to 10 ICPs at companies that you feel like your product really aligns with, and really start to understand who they are, their history, their work history, and really get to know these folks before you ever even engage them, and start to think about how you're going to message these folks. Now, when you're working with 5 to 10 people, you want your quality on your content and your email copy to be really high. You want to convey the fact that you did actually go out, find them specifically, target them specifically, get to know them and their background, and then be able to articulate the problem that you're solving in a really concise manner, and ask them if that's a problem that they're trying to solve at this point. I wouldn't go out of the gate and say, hey, I see you're working in this field, like I'm doing this and I'm solving this problem. Can I have 15 minutes of your time? Like, as a first message, you know what they're going to do. You see, can we hop on a call for 15 minutes at the end of a tagline? You know, it's a sales email, and you just disregard it, like, period. That's just, everybody's brain is trained to do that. Now, hey, I'm James, I'm solving X problem. I see that you work here in this position. I'm set out to solve this problem. Is this a problem you're trying to solve? Just asking better questions. I could even be shooting a personalized Loom video. Hey, I did a little research on you and just had a question for you about this specific problem. Send that Loom video with you, personalized message to that person, and see if they engage. And in Loom, of course, you can track if they're opening it. So you're going to have an understanding of if people are engaging with that. So again, make it brief, make it concise, make it to the point. Ask a question, but don't make it salesy. Don't ask for 15 minutes of the time right out of the gate. Another strategy that I think is useful is being creative in how you're approaching those ICPs. Instead of I solve this problem. Are you looking to solve this problem? Which could work. Again, ask for feedback about your product based on that persona. Hey, I'm James. I started this company to solve X problem. I noticed that you work in this position, and I would love to hear your feedback about my platform to see if there's any improvements we can make.
Oh, I like that.
And getting them on a call and being genuine about it. Like you sincerely want to hear their perspective because this is your target audience and who you're going to be selling to, right? They say, yeah, sure, I can connect 15 minutes this week and give you some of my feedback. Don't go in there to make a sales pitch. Go in there to say, hey, tell them your story. Again, hey, we started this company a year ago because we realized that this was a problem and we wanted to help fix this for folks like yourself and get their honest feedback. And a lot of times, if they do need help solving that problem, they're just going to sell themselves, right? If your product is good, they're just going to be like, wow, this is actually really impressive. This would actually help us. Is there any way I can try a beta of this? Can I test this out? Do you have a trial? And then you have a lead there and you didn't have to do any selling. You're genuinely going in there asking for feedback. So I think that can be an effective strategy to try out instead of just going in for a sales pitch. And if you're not getting any traction on that because people are busy, you may not know this person, you may have some degree of connection, but they may not be willing to give you some time. Dig a little deep in your pockets and offer them a $20 coffee gift card and say, hey, I just really need some product feedback. Would you be willing to hop on a call for a coffee or a gift card, whatever it is? People are going to be more incentivized by that, so you just want to be creative. I'm not saying going for the gift card every time, go the free route for sure, but try and be creative about how you're engaging people versus your typical sales email copy that asks for 15 minutes of time.
I love that because I think too, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I get the feeling that a lot of startup founders are not sales professionals generally. And a lot of times I get the feeling that they are a little lost or a little bit wary of becoming a salesperson with their product. But I love this because it's so much more natural. It's so much more conversational, the way of coming into this, not specifically coming in with a pitch, but coming in just as a person.
Exactly.
I think that makes so much sense.
Yeah, exactly. And you're a founder of a company. You're obviously a smart person to go and start a business and all the working details that come with it to build a product or a service or whatever you're doing. You can have a conversation with the person you solve the problem for. Doesn't have to be salesy. Ask for product feedback.
That makes so much sense. So any other specific tips? We know, of course, that the majority of outbound sales, if we're going to call it that, for startup founders is with either cold calls or cold email. Do you have any more specific tips maybe for our startup founders out there looking to start with one of these?
Absolutely. I really am leaning into video messaging. Loom or even LinkedIn has the video messaging that you can send through InMail. Recording a personalized message in that initial contact. You could write an email that says, hey, Amy, I saw that you work in marketing over at Close. I recorded this video specifically for you because I wanted to ask you a question or because we're solving this problem and I wanted to hear your perspective on it. If they see a Loom link that you specifically recorded for that person, you're going to have a better chance. You're like, well, this person actually took the time to record a video for me. You're going to get a much better click rate. And click it, watch the video. They're going to see, oh, hey, Amy. And you're like, whoa, they actually did take the time to record this for me? Like, what? A lot of salespeople don't do that. It takes time, but it's far more effective than going to buy a list of 500 folks that match your ICP and blasting out an email sequence. So if you do that really well, 10 to 20 times, you're going to probably get some pretty high quality hits back on connecting with people. I say this all the time. I get a lot of sales emails. I think I've probably in the last 3 years gotten less than 5 emails that the first outreach was a Loom video. If they had said, hey, James, I recorded this video specifically for you because we're doing X, Y, and Z and I wanted your perspective, I would click it. Today, I get a sales email, skim through it, archive if it doesn't add any value to my life. But if I see that they actually want to put in the extra effort, I'll at least watch it. But less than 5 in 3 years have had like video messaging.
Wow. So there's potential for that. And it doesn't take too long, no? Like for startup founders, maybe they're thinking like, oh, I don't know if that's going to take a while. How long does it take to record one of these kind of videos?
I would write down a pretty clean talk track about what you want to communicate to that person. Of course, you're adding elements of personalization, right? Their name, their position, maybe another specific detail. Hey, I see you live in Colorado. It's not going to take you long once you have a clean talk track. You could probably shoot one of these in 30 seconds once you got the talk track down. And then you don't have to hash together. You don't have to edit it. You don't have to make it fancy. You don't have to add effects. Shoot it off. Just put it in an email copy that you put together that's brief and concise, and shoot it off and see what happens. And do that in batches. Maybe you do a batch of 10, you don't get any hits. Readjust your email copy and how you're like getting them to actually click that Loom video, things like that. That's why I do recommend that you do it in batches, get those high quality leads, and which convert into high quality customers.
That makes so much sense. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us, James, and thank you all for watching.
Yep. Thanks. See ya.